Three sets of minutes, November 30th for the commission meeting and two work sessions. A work session on the 7th and a special meeting on the 7th.
What was a special meeting?
You were there. You were there.
Okay, there was, okay. I didn't know we had a special meeting. I'll move that we approve the minutes for the regular meeting on November 30th, 2015, and the work session on December 7th, and then the special session on December 7th.
Ed wasn't here for two of these, so maybe I do separate.
Okay, oh, I can do that then.
I'll second the 30th.
It's been moved and seconded the minutes for November 30th for the commission regular session be approved. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I can move one of those. Out of the way.
Looks like we took some of the chairs out of here. We got fewer chairs.
We have fewer people.
I know. We have no one. We have the usual no.
That's a good sign.
I know.
And I can move minutes for the work session of December 7th, 2015 be approved as submitted.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that minutes for the December 7th work session be approved as submitted. All those in favor say aye.
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 I'll move that we approve the special meeting of December 7th.
I'll second that. It's been moved and seconded that the special meeting minutes of December 7th be approved as submitted. All those in favor? Aye. You don't want to reach that.
That is something you want to get two copies of.
Yeah, I don't think there's a difference. I wasn't here.
Yours leader.
Okay.
Oh,
I
that's
don't
okay.
get to do it.
Oh, come on, Ted.
Right, very.
Any general business?
Yes, I'd like to add one Department of Ecology or Ecology Drought Assistance Agreement. Tom Martin will present that. But that may be after E.
And what was the title?
Ecology Drought Assistance.
Joey Ross. Anything from the board?
No.
Our first business item is an update from the Washington Water Trust. Is Amanda Ford.
Great, thanks. So I think what makes sense to me is, I guess I'll just maybe sit back this one and maybe stand up. I think I can do it this way. So we actually had tried to schedule this presentation, I think back in August, September, with Mike Kitts, and finally got it on your calendar. But what I'd like to do, maybe that won't work. What I wanted to do is just review who the Water Trust is and what we've been doing in Dungeness, review the water rule, and then the water exchange, give you an update on where the Dungeness Water Exchange is at, also known as the Water Bank, and then I can give you also a brief overview of what we did in terms of drought response this year. And feel free to ask questions or comments throughout. So Washington Water Trust, just as a reminder, is a nonprofit. We are based in Seattle, and we also have an office in Ellensburg. We are a conservation organization, 501c3, that's dedicated to improving in-stream flows that have a benefit for agriculture, fisheries, wildlife. And we take an innovative market-based approach to transactions and build partnerships. We're very much not a conservation group that lobbies in Olympia or sues people to make things happen. We're very much an on-the-ground, project-based, implementation-focused group. And we work mostly in areas that have a high degree of irrigation throughout the state, although we have some exceptions too.
Who chartered the Water Trust? Where did
Yeah, that's a great question. So the Water Trust started in '98, and we were the second water trust in the country. And basically, there were a couple of environmental organizations that were much more on sort of the sue people to make things happen, and they thought, well, we need another approach. And so a couple of folks got together and they formed the Washington Water Trust with the explicit task of doing projects on the ground that were cooperative and compensated folks financially to get flows in stream instead of through any other means. So it kind of came out of that idea, and it also came out of land trusts, the idea of land trusts and voluntary land trusts, which were growing a lot in the 80s and 90s, and then the water trust is a little bit like that, in that we're
So it's an independent nonprofit?
independent, nonprofit, private organization, although we do receive public funding and have a lot of public partners, of course. So this is a real summary of what we have been doing to date in the Dungeness, but really we were hired initially in 2008. CLALLAM County did a competitive process to hire a consultant to help them with the setup of a water exchange and address whether or not it was feasible and could even work here as Ecology was considering adopting their rule. So we won that contract along with our partner Ecosystem Economics. And in 2009 we did a leasing program with the Dungeness irrigators. And we produced a whole bunch of reports between 2008 and 2010, analyzing the water rights of the water users, looking at different cost benefit, ways to find mitigation. We've also done some grant writing with irrigation districts here. You can see Agnew Irrigation District 2011. In order to actually launch the mitigation bank here, or the water exchange, we had to submit a mitigation plan, which happened in 2012. And after that, we signed a purchase agreement with the water users in 2013, and the rule became effective in 2013 too. So the rule has been effective for 2 years, almost 2 years, and we'll do a quick overview of that. These are just sort of the highlights. We've done a lot of other things, but it just gives you an idea of kind of the role we play here. Yes.
Part of Ecology had an economic study done to see the impact of approval.
And that was not our work, yeah.
I'm sorry.
That was not our work. That's
So
not the
you
cost.
weren't involved in it?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we did a cost benefit analysis that was pre-rule to look at different mitigation options, but Ecology's own economist wrote that, yeah, which we heard a lot about at the time.
Yes, you did.
So Dungeness water rule sets in-stream flows, so it sets a water right for the river, and those water rates are dated with the priority date of 2013. It basically closes the river and small streams and groundwater to new water uses unless there's mitigation. And it also requires meters on all new uses, and that includes exempt wells, which were previously not required to mitigate. And in the water rule, there are two choices for how to obtain mitigation. You can either submit your own plan, or you can use the water exchange, which is the program that we run. So this is very simple cartoon of what a water bank does, but really the water bank is kind of the intermediary, and typically this is not necessarily specific to the Dungeness, but just shows how a water bank might operate. On one side you have supply, on the other side demand, and so you have sellers, water right holders, and then buyers. Could be mitigation, could be water use, could be flow restoration. And typically the water bank is that middle ground that's certifying validity of water rights, setting rules and criteria, setting prices, matching buyers and sellers, and determining priorities for banking transactions. But I'll get into specifically what the Dungeness Water Exchange does. This is our diagram that kind of shows it. And the Dungeness Water Exchange came out of a process that was called the local leaders process, and that consisted of various stakeholders. Tom and Mike participated in that process quite a bit to brainstorm what it should look like and provide feedback. So basically, the Water Exchange, the Water Bank, use those two terms interchangeably, does projects. And we do water right leases, we do projects with reclaimed water potentially, irrigation efficiencies, buying water rights, shallow aquifer recharge, retiring groundwater rights. And some of these projects are appropriate for restoration, which is one kind of arm of the Water Exchange, and some of them are appropriate for mitigation. So we think of the Dungeness Water Exchange as having sort of these two programs, the restoration of the main stem of the Dungeness and mitigation for new groundwater use and continued economic development in the watershed.
There was a real supply and demand concern when the road was being put together. Was there enough water rights going into this bank?
Mm-hmm.
So that when people needed a water right, they would be there, and what would the cost be? Are you going to talk about that?
Yes, I will talk about what the costs are right now, and then if I don't answer your question, let's talk more about it.
That's great.
So right now we have an exchange advisory board, including the following members. This exchange advisory board doesn't meet too frequently. We've met once a year, or I think once, twice a year, but generally it's just been an annual meeting. Although we do have frequent contact with folks from the following agencies and entities. So I just want to talk a little bit about mitigation in the context of the Dungeness and why it has been so challenging. And one of the reasons it's been so difficult is because you have a water rule that Department of Ecology adopted that requires mitigation for your impact on the Dungeness River and all of the small independent streams that flow directly in the Strait of Juan-Mequita. Those are kind of highlighted in those colors there. And these are tributaries to the Dungeness. As you all know, they flow directly into the straits. And so the rule says that you have to mitigate for your impact to all of those different tributaries, not just the one you are drilling your well in. And so that's really tricky. And it's particularly tricky to mitigate for impacts on small streams when there are no water rights to buy in those small streams.
I guess that's confusing.
Yeah.
Even if there's no groundwater connectivity to the in-stream flow, you still have
Well,
to
Ecology maintains that there is groundwater connectivity throughout the watershed. And they have determined this through their 2008 groundwater model. And so in 2008, they had an independent consultant.
We've heard about the model before.
I'm sure you have, yeah. So, but basically the rule is based around the model. And so the model shows us that there is interconnection, and that's what, they're requiring us to manage for. So yeah, that's how it stands now.
Well, it's their rule and their model, so.
Yeah, that is true. So how does the exchange generate mitigation credits? So we've done two things. One, we acquired some water rights from the Dungeness Water Users Association, which I think you all know is the umbrella group of 7 irrigation districts and companies. And that was 175 acre feet. It was broken up into 30 acre feet in the late season when the Dungeness River is really low, like this year, mid-August to mid-September. And then the bulk of that was for aquifer recharge in the springtime. And so this is water that can be conveyed via irrigation ditches, existing irrigation ditches, or pipes to aquifer recharge projects. And we are, actually I'll stay on this one for a second. We're implementing these aquifer recharge projects with our partner, the CLALLAM County Conservation District. They are actually in charge of building and constructing those projects on the ground. And there's a couple of them. One that's completed over not far away from here in Carlsberg, and there's another one that they're working on right now that's further west. And so the idea there is that you are putting water into the ground during the springtime, and the timing is such that it's going to impact flows during the lower flow periods. Also based on the groundwater model to predict those impacts.
Sorry to ask many questions.
No, that's
I
great.
was on that rulemaking group initially, and
Yeah.
it wore me out, so. We talked about reservoirs,
Mhm.
and the Department of Ecology was dead set against that. Same
Well-
philosophy as recharging groundwater, but building reservoirs for high flow periods, you can store the water, low flow periods, you can release it for fish and for use. Is that, what's the one?
It's actually, it's a great introduction because it's actually back on the table now, and I'm
It
going to
is?
sort of, I'm going to get to that in a few minutes. There's a reservoir that we're considering.
I'm ahead of you here.
You are, this is good.
I'm sorry.
No, it's actually great. At least you're paying attention and not too bored here. Okay, so here are the steps for obtaining mitigation through the exchange. And so I think, at first there was a lot of trepidation about, well, how is this going to work? Are people going to have to go to this office in Seattle, to get their building permit? That wouldn't work. That wouldn't be a very good idea. Instead, it's built into the county building permit process. And so folks go to the permit desk in Port Angeles, they begin their process. The permit center staff often fill out the application, the water application that goes directly to us. If they want outdoor water, they come to us directly. If they haven't already drilled their well, it gets drilled, but most of the times they've already drilled it. And then basically an application is submitted to the water trust, and then we turn that around within a week or two, and we send that back to the county. The county gets the applicant to notarize it along with everything else they're notarizing for their building permit, and that's recorded with the auditor. It is specific to the parcel, and it can't be transferred to another parcel, so you can't you can't buy out a whole bunch of mitigation certificates and then transfer them to other parcels or sell them at a higher rate. They're specific to a parcel.
So the first one there is the indoor use, 165 gallons per day.
150, yeah.
It's 150 now?
Mhm. That's the number in the rule, yeah.
Yeah. And then the second one is if you want to do outdoor water,
Yeah.
agriculture or whatever.
Yeah, well, not really. Our packages are pretty small. I'll show you on the next slide. They don't really allow for much agriculture, but, small scale gardening, home and garden kind of stuff.
Who reads the meter?
So ecology requires the meters to be installed as part of the plumbing system. And they didn't have any staff that were available to read meters. So this year we did do some reading of the meters. We did a couple. Basically, you can drive by and read them. You don't even have to go on the property because they're telemetered, probably similar to what you guys have.
So what happens if you exceed the 150 gallons?
Well, 150 is an average that ecology has calculated. So on any given day, somebody might go above or below that. We haven't had any compliance issues yet. We're really just getting this metering program up and running anyway. If there's an issue of, oh gosh, this household looks like it's using 2 or 3 times what is on the mitigation certificate, then ecology can contact them and figure out, well, maybe there's a leak, maybe there's something wrong with the meter.
Maybe they got 10 kids.
Maybe they got 10 kids. If they have 10 kids, that's fine. And they're just going to be on the high end, and there's going to be a whole bunch of other smaller households. So, it would become a problem if somebody was irrigating outside a lot more than they had mitigation for. If they're just using more water indoors, there's no grounds for ecology to do any finding or anything like that, because they know that some households are going to be bigger than others, and somebody might have 10 kids.
Yeah, that's the reason 150 was.
Yeah, and so that's why it's very much average. It's not the top limit on how much you can use.
So who's installing the meters and paying for them?
The homeowner has to pay for it and install it.
And so you have a specification, you said drive-by, so it has to have the...
There's a specification, exactly. Ecology developed that, and it's on their website and our website as well. They unfortunately couldn't find a local supplier, which was a little frustrating because it would have been easier if somebody could just buy it here in town. But it's various locations and they end up mailing them out.
So they have the RF type meters, so they can drive by and get...
Yeah, you can drive by and get it, yeah.
What does the meter cost?
I think it's about $250 to $300. I can't remember exactly, but something in that range.
And we had a couple come to our meeting here a couple of weeks ago. They had a leak in their system, and they had a large amount of water and a big bill. So how does ecology handle that?
I think if there was a leak in the system, then they would,
You have this, or?
yeah, they would say, well, we'll get it fixed, and it's, and I think they anticipate that those kind of things are gonna come up, and
They are,
they're,
absolutely.
and you guys know that very well. But they're not, nobody's getting charged annually or monthly or anything, nobody's getting billed for this. They just pay that one-time fee. Which here are the packages actually. So basically people have 3 choices. They can do indoor only. And so a lot of folks that are already on irrigation ditch water, they might go for the indoor only. Or if they don't even plan to do much landscaping outside, they might want to go indoor. And then there's the basic and the extended outdoor package. There's not a package that has an acre's worth of irrigation of grass, because Ecology and the Water Trust wanted to really encourage conservation with this program, and for folks that are coming here to start a farm, encourage them to locate within areas that already have irrigation water rights, of which there are, 7,000 acres.
Join a irrigation district.
Yeah, there is opportunity to do that. We've had demand for stockwater mitigation, and only a few, but some folks moving here with animals. So we developed these packages. There was a lot of interesting discussion about what constitutes stock. Do my dog and cat count? No.
Well, here's llamas and.
Yeah, it's ungulates only, so hoofed animals. So we really had to dive into this. So chickens don't count, ducks don't count, but miniature pigs do count. It was a little amusing coming up with this, but I think actually we have something that's worked for all the folks that have come to us so far for stockwater. Again, it's a one-time cost. So here's kind of the tallies. So interesting to note here is that there are a lot more folks choosing the indoor-only option. And you may remember that Ecology made a grant of $100,000 that applied to the first 100 applicants. So those first 100, we're actually just exhausting that now, got it for free, so they didn't have to pay anything, which, that could incentivize folks. I'm hoping that those folks aren't also planning to use outdoor water and not have mitigation, because I don't want to have, kind of compliance issues. But I think some of them are hooked up to irrigation districts and companies, and some are not. The outdoor packages were sort of split right now between basic outdoor and extended outdoor in terms of their popularity. And just a few stockwater applications. Actually, it shouldn't say process. Those are completed right now, the 3 stockwater mitigation certificates. And then, as you may recall, there was one very specific mitigation certificate that was issued to the PUD in 2014. So that's the mitigation exchange. Now I kind of wanted to go to drought response just to tell you about what we did if you weren't familiar with it. Those are some pinks in a pool off of Woodcock Road. Summer, if you drove over that, you probably saw the high numbers of fish coming up the river.
But they were rice bedded.
Does it look like that? It's hard to get pictures of fish. I thought that was okay, actually. You can sort of tell. Okay, so in this 2015, we did what was called a reverse auction leasing program, and this was a partnership and coordinated with the Dungeness Water Users Association. Ecology designated $200,000, and the idea is that we were going to pay irrigators within the districts and companies not to irrigate for a month of the irrigation season, and instead to leave that water in the Dungeness River. And you had to have at least 5 acres, you had to have irrigated last year, and you had to have approval from your district or company to make sure that they were okay with it. We were paying on a per acre basis, so it says no reserve price. We didn't say that you had to, that there was a maximum amount that we would pay per acre. We let folks decide what they were willing to lease at, and we said we'd take the lower bids first. So I have here basically the results from 2009 and 2015, so because we did this also in 2009. It was a smaller auction in 2009, and as you can see, bigger in 2015. We had 21 accepted bids, and bids this year, we had 9 in 2009. And we leased water on 850 acres, which is pretty significant for this area. We have 6,000 irrigated acres. We didn't spend our full 200,000, we spent 124,000, and we estimated about 5.5 CFS, 5.5 cubic feet per second. So, you know, the program was pretty, for the most part, pretty positively, received pretty positively with the irrigators. We coordinated directly with them. It was completely voluntary. If somebody didn't want to participate, of course, they didn't have to. And, you know, I interviewed everybody after the process and asked them, you know, what could we do better? And, of course, everybody says pay more money, but I think for the most part it worked out pretty well. Fred might have something to add there, since he was more familiar with the process.
As a victim?
No, willing participant.
Oh, good for you.
So this took up a bit of our time this year running this program. We also did a source substitution with Clark Farms. You're familiar with that farm on Clark Road off of Anderson. And basically they have 90 acres of beef cattle out there, and they have ditch water from the Dungeness River via Klein Irrigation District, but they also have a really deep groundwater well. And so we were interested in having them use that well instead of the ditch water when the river gets really low. And so we have a contract in place for 5 years where they're going to use groundwater well starting in August 15th through September 15th instead of the river water. And that saves a little bit of water each year because they're one of the bigger users on that ditch.
That increases pumping costs.
It increases their pumping, exactly, so we compensate them for that. Yeah, so they have an annual payment every year to do this. It's not based on how much water they pump, we just came up with an agreed amount, and it helped them make sure they can maintain that pump, and they had to put a new circuit board or something on there. It made it worth their while to do the project.
I don't mean to sound like a hard ass, but what's the difference if they're contact?
What's the difference? Yeah. Well, so the difference is also back to the groundwater model. Basically, at a depth of 600 feet, it's considered in the third aquifer. And when you pump in the third aquifer, you at that location, only 37% of your water pumped is considered in continuity with surface water. So the other percent, so there's a net savings because the rest of it is draining to the Straits of Juan de Figueroa, so the hydrogeologists say. So they don't say that anytime you pump anywhere it has 100% impact on surface flows. In fact, the rule says that you have to only mitigate for the actual impact based on the groundwater model. So you may only have to mitigate for anywhere between, in the shallow aquifer, it could be 60 to 90% of your pumping. So yeah, that's sort of one of those details. Yeah, but yeah, really, it's actually a great question. So to the reservoir concept, and this is the last slide here. We wrote a grant with some partners in 2012 to study the feasibility of doing some off-stream storage, and so we looked at a bunch of different sites, and we determined that there's one site that has quite a bit of potential, and this is off of, I should have, it's hard to locate here on the map, but basically, here's the river here, and the river roads over here. This is the Highline Ditch and Highland Ditch, and you just drive up River Road a few miles, and this is DNR timber land. And basically, this particular parcel could have a fairly large reservoir on it that could be gravity fed, which is really important. Water could come in through the ditch, fill up the reservoir, and then gravity fed into the rest of the ditch system on the east side of the Dungeness River, and it could replace late season irrigation water. So the idea is that you store water in the winter and spring, and then you can use that in the late season instead of using river water when the river is low. So pretty big, 88 acres, that would be a big lake. You know, it may not, if we move forward with this and if we sort of refine the design a little bit more, it may not end up being quite that big, but potentially 1,500 acre feet of storage, and that equates to about 28 CFS of flow for 30 days. So that's a lot of water. It could have a really great impact on the river and potentially some long-term water security for the irrigators, as well as helping the city of Swim with their stormwater challenges, because they don't like all the water that's coming off the hill and causing problems with their infrastructure. So this could intercept some stormwater. So the status of this project, yeah?
No, you're going to give status.
Yeah, so status of the project is that it's very conceptual at this point. DNR basically has given a generally thumbs up to the project. That's ecology too, yeah. So folks that have expressed initial support: Department of Ecology, Department of Fish and Wildlife, Jamestown Spalding Tribe, City of Swim, Cloud Conservation District, the irrigators, Cloud County, and DNR. So there hasn't been any major opposition at this point. The biggest stumbling block is the price tag. It's the price range from the engineer that we got was $32 million. So the likelihood of that, you know, coming up with that kind of funding can be pretty low. But there's also ecology and others in the state are looking for these kind of bigger picture projects, and so we are planning to apply for some grants to get this to the next level. And you know, maybe we can get the cost down over time. Maybe it's worth it to the city to have it.
Since part of this would benefit fish, there should be money someplace federal.
Right, well, and hopefully it'd be a combination of state and federal funds.
Sure.
Yeah. The other thing is that we would have to buy we'd have to do a state trust land transfer because DNR doesn't want to own a parcel with the reservoir on it, because that's not part of what they do. We'd have to buy some other forested parcels and then trade them to DNR. And at this point, we don't even know who the landowner would be on that parcel. But
So you have to mitigate.
Catch me too. Yeah, so anyway, I think it has a lot of potential. Folks at the statewide level are really interested in the idea. And we will definitely keep you posted, because when it comes down to it, it'd be great to have the PUD support as well.
So this is a change, because we brought this up in ecology years ago, right? Yeah, years ago. They just rejected it out of hand.
Yeah, well, and part of it is that we're not saying that this is going to be mitigation. We're still saying that we'll do the mitigation as planned in the mitigation plan. Like we'll still do aquifer recharge. We'll still buy and retire those water rights. But this is primarily to meet restoration goals of the river, and making sure that low flow, it doesn't get down to 60 CFS like it did this year. So that's part of it, I think, and they're also happy with the way the mitigation exchange is running now. And the mitigation really is you have to have sort of this consumptive use element, and here you're not creating any new water. You're not retiring any water, you're just capturing water during high and using it during times of shortages.
Is that a natural basin, or is it going to take excavation?
There's going to be quite a bit of excavation, which is where the cost comes from, and then lining it. Yeah, so that's, but apparently there's a lot of gravel on the site, and maybe that could be harvested in the meantime. But yeah, there's a lot of earth moving associated with it.
So you put a slave liner in this or something like this?
You know, I can't even remember what kind of liner they were talking about, but it's just really expensive.
Yeah.
So that's all I have today. I really appreciate all the comments. Is there anything that I didn't cover that you'd like to talk
I
about?
think you did a great job. It's a good overview.
Okay.
Update.
Great.
You showed us the source of water for the bank and how it flows into the bank and flows out. Is there any projections on how long that flow is? And other words, as the population increases,
Yeah.
or the bank runs out of
Right.
water source.
Well, I mean, our mitigation, it really depends on what size packages we sell. So if we sell, everybody goes to the big yards, then it's gonna run out more quickly. But if everybody buys the indoor, and that's kind of the trend right now, it's gonna last longer. It could last 50 years or more with the indoor only packages. So we are really looking long-term. If we have additional requests besides just the building permits, then that gets eaten up more, like if this, the city wants water, or, PUD wants more water. But those are, you guys are looking for larger amounts of water generally, so that would be using up the supply faster. But at this rate, I mean, we're definitely good for another couple of decades with the current rate that we're issuing credits. But it all depends on, how fast things grow around here. But
Have you done a scenario where if growth just really picked up and skyrocketed like pre-2008?
yeah, I mean, we did look at that, and with that, it was more like 20 years of growth rather than 50 or 60. But then it's like, well, then you know that you know in advance that you need to secure more mitigation.
And this plan, which would provide water for irrigators during times of drought, doesn't do anything for the general population. Has your association, bank, looked at water systems? Is there any?
Like what public benefit would there be to the reservoir, or?
Well, the public benefit to the reservoir would make the water available. If you're individual wells, and then you aren't part of a system that you can provide water.
Oh, like expanding a public water system. We have not looked at that. I mean, we kind of feel like
Not part of
that's
the
your department.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that hasn't been part of the bank.
Well, what if a developer, let's say, or a utility
Mhm.
came to the bank for water for an area?
Mhm.
How would you handle that?
Well, first we look at what's available, and so, we did issue one mitigation certificate to the PUD. It was a small amount of water, just to make sure you could get that, your well moved. And that, we actually asked the Exchange Advisory Board what they thought, and they said, well, this is very much in the public benefit, let's approve this. So it very much depends on the size of the request at this point. Smaller ones were more likely to handle than larger quantities of water. So, hopefully that answers your questions. It really, I mean, basically it's a smaller amount of water, then we're more likely to be able to grant a mitigation certificate, sell a mitigation certificate.
When you talk about, you said most of them were looking more towards the indoor package. Does that include any for a little bit of outside watering or landscaping or something like that?
The way ecology describes it is that you can wash your car, wash your dog, have a few potted plants on your deck, but you couldn't have like an irrigated lawn. Of course, we all know that in a lot of areas where you can have a lawn and not irrigate it, it's just going to brown up and then it's going to come back and be green. So we try to let those new folks moving in know that, that you can certainly have, it's not as if you have to have rocks in your yard, you can certainly have outdoor plants without irrigating that much.
But then you have to go to the next level if you...
Yeah, if you want to irrigate more and have a garden and that kind of thing, then you need to get the package. Or have access to other outdoor water.
150 gallons just doesn't sound like much water.
Well,
I know the
yeah.
logic behind it.
But what is your average of your customers
Got it.
indoor?
Tom, you go.
For Carlsberg, I think we had 176
For total water
gallons
use?
per day for total water use, yeah.
So if that's the total water use, 176, that's really low, because the bulk of that, or at least some chunk of that's going into outdoors. And outdoors is the much bigger water user than indoors. So,
But that's Carlsberg, but it varies from system to system.
Right,
That
but
looks like 200.
I think actually ecology looked at your data in order to come up with that number. My understanding is that they looked at PUD average indoor amounts or tried to calculate what that would be.
See, I always had a rule of thumb of about 2,000 gallons per month per person, which ends up being, yours is about 2,250. So that's only like 2 people, 2.25 people in a home.
Which is the average in the county, yeah. I think that, my understanding is that you use local data to come up with that number. And but basically, if it turns out that when we look at the meter data that people are using more like 200 gallons per day indoors, then that can be revised, and we can revise packages and mitigation amounts in that direction.
If we start attracting more younger families.
Right. And as we know, the majority of people moving here are retirees, and we're having this real interface with those folks because we talk to them and we get an idea of who's coming. And most of the time, it's folks building retirement homes. I've talked to a few younger families, but not that many.
But with that, it started at 160, I think, come down to 150. There was a lot of pushback during the rulemaking on that. And I think the college used urban area, national or statewide numbers, come up with that number.
Yeah, my understanding was they used local numbers, but maybe I'm incorrect on that.
I don't know about the 150, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Memo, can I ask a few questions? I would like to follow up on the question that Commissioner Simpson brought up regarding mitigation water available in the bank. There's 2 questions I had. First of all, you have some mitigation projects going on, infiltrating water from Dungeness River. Just wondering how many equivalent houses, of mitigation does that provide?
I don't have a number on that because we don't know. Actually, Joe hasn't gotten the number from his engineer on exactly how many CFS they're going to be able to infiltrate at each of those aquifer recharge sites. And again, it would depend on, we could come up with a rate, but it would depend on, is it the package 1, 2, or 3, because they're very different water numbers. But, it's if we follow our mitigation plan, then we have that 50-year range of water availability for the individual homes.
50-year range.
Well, up to 50 years. It's hard to, again, it's just like this, you don't know how much each household's going to use, and so, and you don't know how many building permits you're going to process per year, so it's really hard to say it's exactly. So it might be anywhere from 25 to 65 years. I really don't know. I think the important part is that we're tracking all of this, and there's a red flag if you get close to the cap, and we know, oh gosh, we got to go out there and be more aggressive and get more projects on the ground.
Okay. Well, the studies done for Carlsberg on mitigation using reclaimed water were very interesting. It's like the more you pump, the more water is used in the house, and then the more is reclaimed and put back into the shallow aquifers. It's kind of a self-mitigating scenario. I was just wondering if that's anywhere else in the state. Is that concept being applied?
Aquifer recharge isn't used in mitigation in many areas in the state that I know of, I'm not really sure. That's a good question.
Okay. And there was one point that you brought up on the slide that one of the things that the Water Trust does is work on the prioritizing of
Yeah, with
water.
the advisory council, yeah.
Right. So, for instance, on Carlsberg, if there's a big demand for water certificates, mitigation certificates within the urban growth area, would they be given priority over, single-family houses outside?
That's a good question. We'd bring it to the advisory council. I have no idea what they'd say. I can say that, as you know, at the local leaders table, very much there was the highest priority was individual building new homes throughout the county. And they didn't necessarily distinguish between in the Carlsberg area and outside. And I don't know that question really came up, but certainly folks thought that priority should make sure that nobody's building permit is held up because of this. And that was given higher priority over, new water rights to utilities. Because it was thought at the time that the utilities, at least for the short term, had water. But I mean, it's a good topic of conversation. I think nobody wants to tell anybody no,
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a couple of other little things, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it seemed like the original water right for the Carlsberg area water system that we got was somewhere around 250 gallons per residence per year. Or 230 or...
Yeah, more than 150.
Yes, and the way that we were going to expand that system was by decreasing the individual home usage from 230 or whatever down to 150. I think the idea behind the sewer system and the urban growth area Carlsberg is designated to be, will be more industrial, commercial type growth than it will be residential. Or it'll be multifamily residential. At least that's the concept that the county is shooting for. How does the bank look at commercial uses, water, and will the urban growth area that's being served by the PUD be under the jurisdiction, if you will, or involved with the bank at all?
Well, I mean, I think that remains to be seen. It could be involved in the bank, or there's always the option to do your mitigation on your own. And with something that big, if the county and the PUD want to get together and do your own mitigation plan, that's always on the table. And if there's a big request that's really significant in terms of water need, then that could be a good option. I mean, we are just one route, and it's optional to use our bank. Of course, it's not like there are a lot of other banks out there, but when it's county and the PUD teaming up, it's certainly possible that you could just do your own mitigation plan and plan your own aquifer recharge projects or buy your own water rights. That's a possibility. I mean, given if we have the water available, it would be great to figure out a way for the water exchange to provide supply. But at this point, we're pretty immature, and we need to make sure that we get our aquifer recharge projects on the ground and operating to confirm how much water they have in them and how many credits they're generating before we sort of take on any other major big risk. But I think that will be continue to evolve over the next couple of years, and we'll figure out what the best fit would be.
Sounds like someday we're going to be looking at bringing that treated wastewater from Carlsberg and sending it to swim back to Carlsberg.
And I asked her this evening about that. She didn't. Do you know the answer to that, Tom? Do they intend to return that?
Well, the county did study various places to return the reclaimed water to the aquifer, and both on the Carlsberg side and on the swim side of the river. And actually, there's a couple spots on the swim side near the county shop, close to where 101 crosses, that appear to be a good location that would create a lot of mitigation credits.
But are they doing that as part of the project?
Well, we haven't done projects at the city shop site yet, but we've talked to them about doing that.
Yeah, the problem is there are other creeks, further to the west, like Matriotti, that might still have an impact that wouldn't be mitigated by that. So there would have to be some additional supplementary.
Right, it may be something where you guys have one project that supplies you with half your mitigation credits, and then we have another project and we can swap credits or something based on location. That's another sort of possibility.
Yeah, I just from reading the permit that the county is trying to get to cross the Nunez River, that's for 2 pipes, which would indicate one of them is going one way and one the other. The other question is the urban growth area under the jurisdiction of the bank, or
No. have any jurisdiction, like, we don't, like, we can, basically, we're just retail, that we can sell these to folks that come to us. We can't sell what we don't have.
Yeah.
And this one, we cannot sell you enough water to cover your whole UGA and Carlsberg, like, we don't have that on the shelf, you know? But you don't have any say, of course, over what we ultimately decide to do, of course.
Say that again.
I mean, we don't have any, like, we're just a nonprofit here acting as a resource. And ecology and the CAFT and PUD would have to determine what constitutes appropriate mitigation.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Amanda, is there mitigation water in the bank now for development south of Highway 101?
Partway south of 101. Yeah. There's still the green and yellow zones, and so that was determined by ecology and doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. So there's still that map that you see, which means that there's a few areas. It looks like a large geographic area, but in terms of developable parcels, there's a few parcels where you can't get outdoor water use. But we've had one so far. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about that, but probably less development up there than maybe was described.
Satisfied?
Well, thank you. That was great.
Thank
That was great, James. Thank you very much. That was fantastic. We've got a lengthy item next. We're going to go into a budget hearing.
I think he has to set up the screen though, too.
Okay, well, this is a good, I was going to say, this is a good time for a break. Let's take a short break.
I probably need to come for your budget discussion.
Oh, come on.
I'm sure it's fascinating.
Yeah, I did read about it.
Yeah, I got to try to remember actually.
I'm an accountant. That's right. So we can just use this.
I think so. Thanks again for inviting me. Appreciate it. It's nice to meet you. Well, if you can't shine the pointer at that.
After we hear that, we'll reconvene the commission meeting and entertain the resolution.
Okay.
So Dave?
Yeah. I think I'm going to do a pretty consolidated, quick tour through this because we've seen most of it. I have to change a very few of the numbers, so we'll go through it pretty quickly. This is for the 2016 budget. First of all, the electric system. The basic stuff, just to remind you, that it's a nonprofit public utility. We cover our costs through rates. We currently are doing our budget, actually have been passed on cash basis. We probably will be changing that next year because we'll have a different budget system regarding software. Our goal is rate stability, which we define in our strategic objective as more frequent and smaller rate increases rather than waiting 3 or 4 years and having a huge increase, trying to keep those increases reasonably small and more frequent. There are a number of challenges which we'll talk about later, having to do with kilowatt hour sales, weather, conservation, and so forth, which is kind of changing our view of how we look at recovering our rates. And that the importance of rate design comes into play in that matter. So the major costs that we recover through rates, and what I've done is I've taken the same costs and broken them into two different pies, but two different ways of slicing the same pie, let's put it that way. The first one is costs recovered through rates, purchase power, personnel costs, capital improvements, materials and supplies, taxes, debt service, and conservation. So here's the breakdown by, this is the current year budget, 2016 budget. The percentage of the cost to the total cost. Purchase power 44%, personnel costs include everything with respect to employee costs, and that is salaries, wages, overtime, payroll taxes, insurances, unemployment compensation, all of those types of things. So you see that those two big items make up 72–73% of our total costs, so that's a big chunk right there. And really, the only two costs that are what I would refer to as variable costs, that basically, as you sell more, you purchase more, so the purchase power is directly proportional to the sales of kilowatts, and the taxes basically, which are based on the sales also. So those are the only two really variable costs. Most of the other ones are pretty stable direct costs.
So that 6% for taxes is sales tax?
It's B&O tax, it's privilege tax, and it's approximate. I mean, it's about 6%.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, the B&O tax, the sales tax, the privilege tax, the utility tax, all of those taxes add up to about 6% of the revenue. So, so the revenue requirements, this is just, like I said, same pie, different way of slicing it. Operations and maintenance, which of course includes the non-capital portion of wages, the materials. This is for operating and maintaining the systems, and of course, debt service, conservation, taxes again. So it's just a little bit different way of looking at it. This is the chart that I mentioned challenges earlier. This is the chart that kind of shows the challenges that we're facing right now. If you look at for the last 5 years, kilowatt hours sold, you see over 10% decrease in that 5-year period. And then power costs, of course, are going up significantly. Now that power cost number includes conservation and renewable, the credits that we purchase. And then personnel costs are also increasing significantly. So the problem is, you see, we have had rate increases every year for the last 4 years. And our gross sales are just not going up in relationship to the rate increase that we've had, because of the fact that we're selling less of our product.
It's because of warm weathers, mill closures.
We will get into that.
Oh, you're gonna talk about that, all right.
Yeah. So rate pressures, power costs, personnel costs, and the really big one that is causing that is the weather-related lack of growth in sales. John Purvis, our chief engineer, has estimated that about 80% of the sales decline is based on weather, and about 20% based on conservation.
like the economy had into that.
Pardon me?
The economy didn't have anything to do with that.
Well, there's probably some, yeah. Yeah. So the economy would come in that other 20%. He basically said that about 80% of it was based on weather. In the future, power costs, conservation and renewable costs are going up significantly. We go to, I'll turn to Fred, I think 2016 we go up to 9% requirement on the renewable, and then 2020 we go up to 15%. So, and that cost goes up significantly in those years also. Oh, this is, okay. So, yeah, John did this, you know, he's those engineers that have to do.
Gotta put some numbers to this.
And I won't spend a lot of time on this because we actually went over all of this at the last budget hearing. Most of these were put together by John, and it just reiterates what he is saying as far as the warmer than normal weather is causing a decrease in the revenue, and that has to do with heating degree days and all of this technical stuff. So the highlights and the assumptions with respect to putting together a long-term projection, we project a load growth at approximately 0.5% annually. I'm not sure that we're even hitting that, are we, Fred? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we just last week reviewed our load forecast with Bonneville, and they're going to use 0.6% for 10-year load growth projection.
Okay.
Average annual.
Where did they get that?
Where do they get that? They look at our history. They come up and talk with us about mill closures and grow operations, and
They extrapolate.
yeah, they adjust for weather and.
A lot of crystal ball.
Yeah.
As long as more, right?
And this may have changed since because it changes periodically, but the BPA rate increases estimated at approximately 8% every other year. Is that still?
Well, there's a lot of pressure, as you know, folks know on Bonneville, to say that's not sustainable anymore.
Yeah. In our strategic planning, we shoot for O&M costs increasing 2% annually. The other issue has to do with rate finance capital. We try to again have a goal of about $5 to $6 million of rate finance capital. If we have any larger projects, then we would probably go out to the bond market for more money. Conservation future costs, depending on the CPA, the conservation potential assessment. Did I get it right? Good. Projected rate increases dependent on rate design. Now, what I mean by that is, because of the fact that we're selling fewer kilowatt hours, it's difficult to even set as a goal a certain rate increase, because our fixed costs are going up and our kilowatt hour sales are going down, so it's difficult. We try to get as much of the rate increase into a daily charge as we can without going over our goal of approximately 3% rate increase.
Well, as distributed generation increases in our service area, we're going to have to
Yeah,
look at it.
otherwise the the other users are basically subsidizing the solar users in the system, yeah, that's right.
As batteries become
Yeah.
more efficient, and then we don't have to mess with those people at all.
We have to pay for batteries, though.
Yeah, batteries that would last the last 2 weeks of no sunshine.
Yeah. So our challenges are stable rates, which again, we have defined as more frequent and lower increases on an annual basis, trying to keep it in the 3% range. Capital financing, upgrades of existing system. We still have a lot of system out there to take care of, whether we're selling kilowatt hours or not, we still have to take care of the system. And I point out to a bunch of people that were here Saturday for the open house that this weather that we had this last weekend is the worst kind of weather for us because it was reasonably warm, so people are not, when I say that, I mean revenue-wise. But it was reasonably warm, yet it was windy and rainy, and especially windy. That's where you have trees in the power lines. That's where you have tons of overtime on the answering service calls coming through this weekend were just like this, constant. It seemed like there were a lot of outages, and they get people back on the system really quick. But we're not selling power, and it costs money. And it costs money. That's exactly right. So here is our basically our projected budget for 2016, and the way this is presented is it shows 2015, the approved budget on the left, the column on the left, and the estimated actual, which I believe is it through October, Ruth?
It is.
Through October, and then with November and December estimated. So it's actuals through October and then November, December estimated. We have the November numbers, but we can't just keep updating this all the time. It just, to have a little bit of stability in our presentation.
Estimated actual does include...
It includes November and December. It's just estimated for November and December. Yeah. So the whole number for the year is the estimated actual for the year. And you'll see that our revenue from rates basically is about $3 million, a little over $3 million down from what we had budgeted. Because, as John pointed out, it was the warmest year that we've had in a number of years. This was a big year for bringing in debt proceeds. Basically, that's to pay for all of our building projects. Of course, if we don't sell the kilowatt hours, we don't have to purchase them, so you can see that our purchase resources are, basically bond bill purchases are down from what we had budgeted. But that's about 45% of the revenue, so.
Now, we still have some tier 2 in there that we had to purchase, is that right, Cronin?
Right, the way the tier 2 works is you're obligated to buy it, and you buy less tier 1 for those.
Yeah.
We had to make that decision 5 years ago.
So, that's 2015. We will use about $1.3 million of our reserves in 2015. And actually, we had budgeted using at least $1 million of that for our building projects. So, for operations, really, we're down about $310,000. 2016, the revenue, we'll get into what we're proposing as far as rate increases in a little bit, but the revenue that we project out based on the rate increase that we're showing is about 55 million. And I would say a good portion of that is coming from an increase in the base charge. We're recommending a $2.50 per month increase in the base charge, and then about 2% on the per kilowatt hour amount. So it comes to an approximate number. I mean, you have to say approximate number because it affects different people different ways, but the approximate number is about 3.8% total overall average rate increase, and that's based on 1,200 kilowatt hours per month.
And that's how much per month?
$1,200. How many dollars? It's about $4.20.
For the customer.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll get into that a little bit later.
This is kind of a side trail, but given that we're moving into Tier 2, which is market purchases by Bonneville, and under the 2 or 3 different carbon tax scenarios, that would be taxed as coal generated, well, it's not, just a fraction of it is. We didn't factor anything into that, because basically it hasn't happened yet, is that right?
If it hasn't happened, we haven't factored it in.
Well, I know a lot of this hasn't happened yet, so
Well, yeah, and
that's what a budget's all about.
I can't imagine that.
I mean,
It's
the
gonna
only
happen.
comment I make to that is, with the recent load forecast, it goes into the Bonneville's work for 2016.
Yeah.
And that's when we have to provide notice of how we're going to meet post-2020 loads that are in excess of Tier 1. And I've requested Bonneville, the type of Tier 1 product I like is a non-carbon emitting resource.
Did you do that?
I can ask.
You can ask, and I appreciate you doing that, just that.
And I suggested to Bonneville that I think, at least in the state of Washington and perhaps others, that may be a product that is going to have a lot more interest in the future.
But what they've done is they're saying that those market purchases are unspecified power, it's a mix, you don't know where the electrons come from.
Right, and so I'm asking for a product where they can identify and designate that the resource is coming from a non-carbon emitting resource.
So we just want green electrons. That sounds good, I like that.
But I mean, you'd have to look at the economics too.
Well, I know you're gonna pay a premium for that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, we still have supply and demand, you know, if that really became a product, a specific product, then
Oh, everybody's
so
gonna
much
say
demand for it, the price goes up. So, these are basically the numbers that we had brought to the other budget session, so, you know, if, in the capital, I believe we have, at least a portion of, I believe there's the remodel of the warehouse for the water department and the records department, that's included in there, and then a portion of that is also some of the site work and design work and so forth of the forks. Isn't that true, Doug?
Yes.
Yeah. So we are, again, projecting a decrease in our reserves. We've had, you know, people have been complaining for a number of years that I've been around here that we had too much in reserves, and so, you know, we want to bring it to a level that is within our goal, which is 16 to 19 million, but not, you know, use it indiscriminately. So, if we take a current bill, we just wanted to show this as an example of a current bill based on 1,200 kilowatt hours per month in comparison to City of Port Angeles, Jefferson PUD, Clark PUD, Snohomish PUD. You can see really the only one that is a little bit cheaper is the city of Port Angeles, and one of the reasons for that is, of course, they don't have the I-937 requirements that we have.
You don't have to purchase retail.
Plus, well, and the other thing is that they have more of what you would refer to as an urban system almost, as opposed to the rural system, which of course is a lot more lines through a lot more trees. But as far as the other systems go, I happen to know Jefferson, the reason theirs is so high is that they spend so much for their system.
Yeah, they took on a lot of debt when
Yeah, they got a lot of debt.
Yes, you
But just to reiterate something that I don't think we talk about enough around the state of Washington, and that is that we have the cheapest electric in the country. I know that that's not it's not something that, you know, makes people feel warm and fuzzy when they actually have to pay their electric bill, but it is a fact. We're significantly under the national average.
Oh, yeah, of course. Hydro system is a blessing to the Northwest.
Sure.
We keep digging into different, and we don't even count it as renewables.
Right, right.
And, I mean, in addition to, like you're saying, in addition to the lowest cost, we also got the cleanest power too.
Right,
We've got
right.
hydro, and then we've got the Columbia Generating Station, and that's at least the last look I had, that's 98% of our power.
Mhm.
And non-carbon.
Non-carbon, yeah.
Carbon.
So,
What about wind and solar?
That's in there too.
yeah, it's in there too.
Glad you put it in.
So now let's take a quick look at the water system. Basically, again, the same model. We recover our costs through rates. Our primary costs in the water system are purchased water, personnel costs, capital additions and improvements, materials and supplies, taxes, debt service, and a small amount of conservation. Our challenges, again, stable rates, aging infrastructure I put in there because it is a problem, and we see that year after year. I think Tom will get behind me on that one. That there's a lot of things that we will have to be improving in the future. Maintenance of reserves at or above the target of 2 million. That is just we haven't had any specific. We're in the process actually of having a cost of service study for the water system. So these proposed rates do not take into account any recommendations from them because they haven't completed that study yet. I think we have a conference call with them again tomorrow. I'm not sure how close they are, but we're making some progress. So here's the water system. Remember last year, as of I believe January 1st, we had a rate increase of 6%. We had gone for a number of years, and contrary to our strategic goal, I think that strategic goal was set for the electric system. We really never talked in terms of the water system with respect to the 3% increase stable rate scenario, but I think we need to start doing that. We increased our rates by 6%. Boy, we're coming really close. You can't get much closer than that. I don't know if it's going to come in at exactly that, but it's awfully close to that. I think we've had some differences in timing as far as some of the projects that we've gotten some of that loan money for, and so we basically did not use as much of our loan money this year as we thought we might, but we will be. I think the year after next is a year that we're we're scheduled to spend some more of those loan proceeds. So basically, the 2016 budget, basically when I did the projection for last year, I recommended that we increase our rates by 6% each year for the next 3 years. And we'll see where we come in on the cost of service study, but I'm recommending again that we increase our rates by 6% in the water system as of, because we're doing this kind of late in the year. My recommendation is as of February 1st, which of course is the low time of the year for water use, so shouldn't have that much of an impact. And again, we will be using some of our reserves. Most of that will be for capital that we over and above that of our debt proceeds. So it will be rate-based capital.
So you've got you got electric at 3.8 approximately.
Approximately, yeah.
Starting April 1st.
Right.
And then we've got water approximately, or 6% starting February 1st.
Right, and sewer is same,
And so it's
6% February 1st.
So,
And I'll get into that a little bit later. I've got a slide that.
so that's the resolution that we're presenting to the commission.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So we're looking at your vote on that, Will.
Okay, we're gonna go back, finish this, and be back into the regular session.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's still hearing, right?
Yeah, we're still in our hearing. This is the sewer system. Again, we got reasonably close as far as our revenues with the projected, with the 6% rate increase. And we're looking at another 6% rate increase, and still, even with that, we will project that we will probably use some of our reserves. Not too bad, but it's within a nice operating margin, I'd say. So, this is the summary. These are the three budgets that we will bring to you today to approve for next year. And these are the proposed increases in rates. And this is what we're calling average monthly bills. The electric is 1,200 kilowatt hours. Water, I can't tell you exactly how much that is, but it's a current bill of $42 going to about $44.50, so it'll be about a $2.50 increase, and then sewer about a $2.40 a month increase. Again, electric would be about a $4.20 a month increase. So, unless you have any other questions, then I would recommend that we adjourn the budget hearing and go back into the regular session.
Good. All right, we'll come out of the budget hearing and reconvene our commission meeting. And we have resolution 2044-15, 2016 budgets. I have a motion.
I'll move that we adopt resolution 2014-15, adopting the 2016 electric, water, and wastewater operating budgets as finally determined.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded for adoption of resolution 2044-15, adopting the 2016 electric, water, and wastewater operating fund budgets as finally determined. All those in favor? Aye.
So we were increasing the wastewater 6% too then?
That's correct.
Okay.
How many customers is that? That's 35 or 40?
How many customers?
Yeah, more like 60.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Growing that business?
Well, we got View Ridge and Southern View Estates next to
Yeah, we've had some systems.
Yeah.
There's nothing going on that
About
last
5.
system, is there?
Well, there's been houses being built, you know. There were 16 lots and a lot of them are close to it.
Oh, really? Wow.
Southern View, there's quite a few in there
Yeah.
now.
Oh, really?
All of a sudden, they started to sprout now.
There we go. There's that 0.5% growth that's going to just skyrocket.
Yeah.
Okay, our next item is the 2016 strategic plan. Doug?
Yeah, we had a work session on the strategic plan, so I'm gonna just talk about this rather briefly if we get something going. For strategic plan, we've got this, this will be posted to the public in first of the year after it's approved and we get it all finalized and up. And it's similar to past years. And if you, I'm going to maybe not go too much further than this. But again, these are the 11 objectives of our strategic plan. And I think the most important thing to start looking at in the future here is what we've done in each of these areas. Stable rates is a good example to start with. We've had 3 to 3.5, but now we have a 3.8% increase. If you look at, when we get down into the objectives, you'll see that it says, as far as the objective goal for stable rates, it's within 1% of the last 5 years of increases. So we're certainly staying within that objective that we have. Ensure reliable supply. We're doing that. We're staying up with all our environmental responsibilities. We have our I-937 conservation and renewables, our RECs that we're buying. We're meeting all the requirements of the state law from all those areas. Continuous performance improvement, building this building and is one of those continuous improvements. We're going to have better efficiencies in this building. We're closer. Anytime someone like Dennis or John Purvis wants to see us, they don't have to drive 20 minutes down the road and then back again 20 minutes, wasting about an hour a day coming to meetings in the old PA office we have. They're just right down the street and Dennis is right upstairs. So we've got all the direct reports now are in this building. So that will be a real plus for getting together, getting things efficiently taken care of. We're looking at, the commission approved us going to NISC, the integrated software system. We think that'll be a big improvement for us. That'll be really shown in the next year or two. So all these different areas, like I said, I won't go into them all, but we continue to work on them. We have that matrix that we've shown the commissioner during the work session that has projects that are identified that enhance all of these goals. Attract and retain great people, getting people retiring now, that's a real challenge for us to get great people here again, and we're working on doing that. Safety, again, is a big concern I always have. We had our men and crews and women were out nights for the last couple of weeks almost every night, but this last week, I mean, if we get the dispatch, like Dave was mentioning, at nighttime, every time there's like call-outs, I mean, it just fills up our whole mobile phone here on call-outs. People are getting called out constantly. We even had some people, after we wore out the people out west, they were calling from this end to go out there, and sometimes it works the opposite way, so.
It's all in overtime rates.
Yeah, overtime rates. It was a lot of work, because of the heavy rains, and then with the heavy rains with the trees, the winds, and that's the, the trees going down. So the employees have been doing a great job keeping the power back on. The last big one before this one, we had power on a number, in some cases, a week earlier than some of the other areas east of us here. We even had one utility call us for like 3 days after we were all on for help, and we got ready to go over to help them, and then they called it and canceled us. Anyway, we're here to help, and we're here to help our customers. That's our first priorities. So we've been managing risk, we've been financially responsible. I think that integrated software system is going to help us from that standpoint too. So I think we're following our strategic plan for the last 3 years, 4 years that we've had this particular one that we've been working on, and we've been improving on it each year. We've got a schedule that we work from. We base it all on our vision of being the best utility for our customers, our mission statement, and all of our core values, being respectful, ethical, safe, proactive, excellent, customer-focused, and team-oriented. Those are the strategic objectives. So stable rates, like I mentioned, the goal here, saying the district provides stable rates to customers within 1% swing of previous 5-year adjustments, and we've been doing that. It shows the gaps we are between picture of excellence and where we are today, and then the following page shows the strategic initiatives. How do we get to close those big gaps and to get to the picture of excellence? So we've gone through. We've got the one on reliability. I think this is another one we've been really improving quite a bit. Our engineering department's been doing a lot of projects that loop the substations and giving more reliability to our customers. So if the customers want to see this, it's online. It's on our website, so they can go to it, and it'll have all these strategic objectives. It'll show the whole plan. They'll be able to see what's there and what we're striving for and what we're doing. So I think basically through the work session, we've seen this all. We've presented it to you in the past, so I'm just going to ask you to give the approval on this. There's no resolution on this. It's just basically a nod from the commissioners to go ahead with it forward into 2016.
It's interesting that Bonneville, with their reference case, they're looking at long-term predictable rates, and whether they're stable or not, we'll see. And we'll see if they can deliver on that. I think there's, they're under pressure. We've got cost. We'll see how well they can do that.
Yeah, I mean, along that line, and maybe I should have brought up when Dave was presenting it, Bonneville's given us about 8% every 2 years, so that's 4% a year. And if you, according to the pie charts, about half of that is directly bottom line. So of that 4%, 2%. So every year we get hit with at least 2% from Bonneville. And actually it's a little more than that, because if you get hit with the 8% the first year, and we're separated in 2 years, so you really have a compounding issue there. So, I mean, that gives us like 1%, a little bit more than 1% for everything else that we do here, for our labor, our medical, all our benefits, commodities going up in price. So I think the district, the employees here have been trying real hard to stay within that, but it's very difficult considering that Bonneville continuous every 2 years hitting us with that high rate.
So you just want to nod on this?
Yeah, just a nod on this, and I think the main thing is it is on our website, and people can go see it if they want to.
We've seen this many times before.
Right.
The dashboard looks good.
And it does change from year to year a little bit, not a whole lot. Like this year, I think under, where is that, Fred? We put the community, was that it?
Solar, I think it's under environmental responsibility.
Environmental responsibilities here. Anyway, it's somewhere in our strategic plan talks about putting in a community solar project, which the utility services conservation group are working on. Okay.
I will give him an eye.
I second on that. That's all right.
3 nods up.
3 nods.
Pardon?
Is that all you had?
Yeah, that's all I have for the strategic plan.
Okay, next item is Resolution 2045-15, Conservation Potential Assessment. Ed?
Yeah, so for the board's consideration today is a resolution establishing conservation targets for both a 10-year period and a 2-year biennial target for conservation under the Energy Independence Act. Back in November 16, we had at a regular board meeting a presentation regarding our conservation potential assessment. You may recall that because of forward market prices, reduction in load growth and so forth, the target has actually decreased. And so we've done that analysis, made that presentation, and according to the rules under the Energy Independence Act, the board needs to take action to adopt those targets.
Okay.
I'll move that we adopt Resolution 2045-15, establishing Energy Independence Act 2016 to 2025, achievable cost-effective conservation potential, and 2016-2017 biannual acquisition target for cost-effective conservation. What a mouthful.
That's a mouthful.
I guess I'll kind of second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded for adoption of Resolution 2045-15, establishing Energy Independence Act 2016-25, achievable cost-effective conservation potential, and 2016-2017 biennial acquisition target for cost-effective conservation. All those in favor? Aye.
Who does this language in these? Is that Nicole?
I just want it.
Oh. Words that,
Trying to dot the i's and cross all the t's.
well, it's
Put a lot of
Sure,
references in
it's
there.
probably pretty prescriptive, what you got. Okay, our next added item was ecology drought assistance. Is that right? From
Tom.
Rick. Oh, who's doing that?
Tom's on that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was that one. It's Tom.
Oh, wait, did you do conservation first?
So there's item E, you want to do Tom's before E?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Either way.
Yeah, we added that item, so we just put it in the wrong slot. That's great. That would flow better if you went ahead and did the conservation part.
Okay,
It's supposed to be after E.
right. So back in July, district staff proposed to the board a conservation program that was advanced power strip mail by request. And this is for advanced power strips that control parasitic type of loads on home entertainment systems and so forth. It was anticipated that it's a cost-effective program. It's one that doesn't require too much administrative work on behalf of the district. We were concerned about our 2-year conservation targets that's ending this year, and we needed a boost. Additionally, the rules now allow us to carry over excess conservation achievements to future years. So it was a program that helped us achieve the current biennial targets, but also if we overachieved, it was carried forward. So that contract was awarded to AM Conservation Group. Work started in September 11th. It was completed completed on November 30th, and a total of 9,008 advanced power strips were distributed to customers. And that's about 38.3% of our residential customers opted to have one of these advanced power strips.
That's about $50 a strip then. Is that about right?
That's about right. Yep, that's the wholesale cost.
45, they're supposed to be with taxes or something.
Cost is $50.61 per unit, and then we've got tax on top of that.
Well, given the number of people that opted to receive these, do you give them conservation relief from it?
Right, so with the 9,000 customers that opted in, we get a claim savings of 2.9 million kilowatt hours.
Jesus.
So hard to believe. It's not the most cost-effective program we do. Working with John Purvis for voltage reduction and so forth, that's cheaper kilowatt hour conservation savings. But you know, this was a good one, administrative-wise, allowed us to get these savings that we can meet our target and carry it forward. So it turned out to be a good program for us.
And a lot of enthusiasm. I was at the Square Dungeons Chamber of Commerce board meeting a few weeks ago, and they mentioned that and wanted to know about it, and they were excited about it. They were going to get a free power strip, and I said, oh, wait a minute, it's not really free. So, and I went to the post office to pick mine up, and people there were excited about it. So.
Yeah. It's been a good program for us. So staff would recommend that the board accept the project and contract as complete.
I move that we accept the agreement number 150320 with AM Conservation Group Incorporated as complete in the amount of $484,960.28.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded to accept agreement number 150320 with AM Conservation Group, Inc. as complete in the amount of $494,960.28. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I'd also like to comment on the concept of this, and tell you about what the mainstream media tells you on television. In the evening news, recommend that if you were going to go to Granny's house for Thanksgiving and not be home, that you leave lights on and a television or a radio playing while you were gone, so that the bad guys would think there was somebody there and wouldn't break into your house. We're trying to do the opposite of that. That's what we're up against.
Yep.
Yeah, but that way we use more kilowatt hours.
We're not trying to be that serious. Yeah, we're serious.
Well, if we look at the rate case, then we need more kilowatt hours.
Try it.
From a practical standpoint, for the homeowner, breaking it might cost you a lot more.
Yeah.
This way you have one TV that gets shut down, but the other one stays on.
Several TVs.
That's good, yeah.
Or you have 60% of our customers that didn't opt for one of these. So they can.
The other 50% didn't go to Granny's, so.
They just keep the lights on.
Yeah.
So people don't realize they're gone.
Okay, well, back up now to we're going forward. Ecology drought assistance from Tom.
Okay. I have in my hand an agreement with the Department of Ecology for grant monies that were allocated this summer for the drought. Remember the drought? Kind of hard to remember now. We're all knee-deep in floodwater. But for the project that we conducted on Deer Park Road to bring the new groundwater source from Bobcat Hall and Old Olympic Highway up to Township Line in order to provide a backup source of water to the water treatment plant on Morris Creek. We submitted an application back in August for all the money that we spent on that project, including borrowing our pumps from the HOCO system for all the hours that our water crew spent on that, all the contractor costs. Straits Electric did a lot of work, as well as RJ Services. So I put that all into an application request for $258,190, and Ecology approved it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
100%.
That's really
100%
good.
grant. Yeah. So it just needs to be executed by signature of Doug and myself, and then we can start asking for a reimbursement of those costs.
Fantastic. Good job, Tom.
It's where Tom submitted that.
No, that was great.
Worked out great.
It really worked out real good.
Yeah.
You need a motion to approve
The
that?
only regret is we couldn't have put in the $1 million system.
That's right.
I haven't fudged the numbers, no. I didn't say that.
You need a motion to approve that, or just?
No, no, I just-
We'll just sign on it.
No, it's free money. I mean, it's not free, I'm sorry.
We are working with an old transite system for the most part. When we did those cuttings, was there any assessment of the condition of the pipes?
Yeah, there was, the transite is surprisingly in good shape on Deer Park Road. That's not the case for all of our transite. Other places where the earth is moving more and it's wetter, like Final May, it's in worse shape there. But to my surprise, on Deer Park Road, it's pretty good shape.
Good. But and obviously it's withstanding the increased pressure that we put on parts of it. Yeah.
Yeah, we tried to minimize the increase in pressure. That's why we have 3 pump stations that boost water from one pressure system to the next pressure zone. So we didn't really increase the system pressure all that much.
You got the areas separated now?
Well, right now it's a unique case. In general, yeah, we'd separate the upper from the lower, if that's what you're asking.
Well, I was wondering about, so that people don't come into them, but you had to break them down for the winter, right?
Well, we're still using it because we are rehabbing Deer Park Road Reservoir.
Oh, really?
Yes, so that's currently out of service until they recoat the interior of the reservoir, which in a week or so that'll be done. But in the meantime, we're still using those pumps.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, and with all the storms and the creek is flooding and turbid, and we generally shut down the treatment plant and all that. So it's great to have this backup source in time for even the flood season too.
What allows you to work on the tank,
Yes,
which would be pretty difficult to do.
right.
Yeah. Good.
Very good, thank you very much.
Good news, we should have voted for last time.
Yeah, we should.
Instead of delinquent accounts.
That's right.
Have we painted the tank yet?
We are recoating the interior. We can do that now this time of year because they control the environment inside the tank. So we may have to put off the outside until the weather gets better in the spring.
Okay, our next item is delinquent accounts for December 3rd, 2015.
Okay, yeah, we are recommending that you approve the removal of delinquent accounts on the list dated December 3rd in the total amount of $2,439.17 from the active accounts receivable, including a collection fee of $522.84.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
What it was.
here's a graph for
You got first?
the first 11 months of the year.
First done, and unfortunately, only got this without.
We're almost back to 2010.
Yeah. We'll end up probably, well, we are a little bit higher, and then we've got 1 more month to go. This is through November 30th.
Good direction to be going.
Yeah.
Well, I'll move that we approve removal of delinquent accounts on the list dated December 3rd, 2015 in the amount of $2,439.17 from the active accounts receivable, including a collection fee of $522.84.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve removal of delinquent accounts on the list dated December 3rd, 2015. Total amount of $2,439.17 from the active accounts receivable, including a collection fee of $522.84. All those in favor?
Aye.
So you got $72 to play with for the month of December here, Dave.
No, we're over.
Oh, already, yeah.
Well, yeah, the red one is the 2015 and through 11
Oh,
months.
you're already above it.
Yeah.
So,
But we will,
So you got to find, well, Tom just gave you another $200, $200,000.
right?
Okay, next item is delinquent invoices, Dave.
Okay, and I don't know if you remember, but I think it was about last year at this time, we brought a huge list of these to you. They're miscellaneous things where somebody has run into a pole and we've exhausted all of our other means of collection. I mean, that was just an example. It's not always somebody running into a pole, but they're miscellaneous type things where we're billing customers for damages or for things that they have caused that they've skipped town, or in some cases we don't even know who it is. Of course,
Yeah.
we do the best we can to find who was responsible, but we can't always do that. But I thought, rather than wait 3 or 4 years and have a big number, that we should probably do that annually. So this is basically this year's invoices that we're writing off. So we recommend the approval of that we approve the removal of delinquent invoices for miscellaneous accounts receivable as of December 14, 2015. In the amount of $5,923.80, including a collection fee of $1,543.43. Now, I will point out one thing, and that is that the one item on there is, if you remember, it's been 2 or 3 years ago now, but the gal that worked here as the temporary, or I guess you'd call it a temporary person that pleaded guilty, or is it pled guilty? Pleaded guilty to actually stealing the money from us. There was a restitution order recommended by the court ordered restitution, and she made one payment, and now she's gone. The reason we're writing this, or requesting this be written off, is so that we can turn it over to collections. And actually, by turning it over to collections, we could probably get a garnishment for wages or something to pay off that bill.
Is she still around here?
My understanding is, the last I heard, it's been several months, but I understood that she was working somewhere over the Seattle area.
Oh, okay. So we do have a way to collect it.
The court does a terrible job of following up on these things. I
Really? So there's no legal penalty there or not?
I don't know, ask Hugh. He's.
Oh, no.
Well, do you have a
It'll take an
restitution
hour.
order? Do you have a restitution order
Yeah,
in the court?
yeah.
Well, then the
Well, yeah, but they just don't enforce them.
Oh, I know, yeah, you're right. They don't
That's
have
my
the
point, is they don't enforce them.
Yeah.
And the only way that we can attempt to get the money back is to do it this
Send it
way,
over
to
to
turn it over to collections.
Yeah.
So,
So if you got the restitution order, that's what you wanted.
well, we got that.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
but-
so we just gotta put it on this and then
Yeah.
send it over to collections.
Yeah, so,
When you have a pole severed and all that, what do you actually charge the perpetuator? It's just the cost of repairing the pole, nothing else, just labor?
labor and materials,
Labor.
yeah, and then I think there's a 10% administrative fee,
Well,
yeah.
I mentioned that the original was, the balance from the court was 28.
2,800, yeah.
Just wasn't a huge amount.
Yeah.
That's still a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, but it's not $250,000. Point I want to make.
Yeah,
But we caught it early enough, huh?
Yeah,
but that American Towers thing kind of bothers me. They just ignore us.
we've got a couple of those, we're going through the same thing with the Western Cable, is that their name, the one over in Diamond Point? They just, yeah, basically ignoring us is a good way to put it. I don't know if they're still in business or not. I mean,
Well, American Tower.
Are they?
Well, I think, like, Jordan are, they're a big outfit.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know specifics on that. I can check into it, find out more about it. I do know more about Western Cable because I had that guy come into my office last year and promised to pay me, and finally we got a check from him, but we're going through the same thing again this year. We have sent registered letter or certified return receipt letters, and they keep getting returned to us, non-deliverable and all kinds of things. So I don't know whether he's taking his mailbox down or what, but, so we will probably
That's
at
probably
some point.
sounds the way they operate. They just don't want to pay the bills.
Yeah,
You did a motion on that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
No, we didn't. I'll do it. We'll approve the removal of delinquent invoices from the miscellaneous accounts receivable as of December 14th, 2015, in the amount of $5,923.80, including a collection fee of $1,543.43.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded for approval of removal of delinquent invoices from miscellaneous accounts receivable as of December the 14th, 2015, in the amount of $5,923.80, including a collection fee of $1,543.43. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, our next item is comments from the public. There being none, correspondence communication.
Yeah, just a few things. One included in there is the weekly schedule for 2016. It's a draft. If there's any other items that you would like to get during work sessions, let me know. We've got the typical ones like communication plan, engineering projects that I've added, and like conservation. Then I've added some newer ones like cybersecurity status, community solar, NIS conversion, ISC conversion as it moves along. So if you think of anything else that you'd like to add, we've got a number of open dates in there, and I still haven't finalized with the record report people the dates might move around when they actually will be presented, but this is kind of a first step in our plan for next year. Unless you have any other comments or questions, you want to add things, subtract things.
Well, I guess we can look this over and come back with any suggestions.
Okay.
All right, next item is committee and organization delegates.
I didn't finish.
Oh, excuse me. I'm not trying to do this. Use good.
I'll try to do this. Also got a letter from PAPA, Peninsula Area Public access, I think is part of Stephanie's group there, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the one.
They're going out to a number of organizations. And they're, as Stephanie has mentioned to us before, how they're forming this community public access television station for Port Angeles and Collin County. And we just received it, we'll look it over and see what we may have. As you know, they are a tax exempt organization, but as you know, we have real strict limitations on any gifting, but I just wanted to let you know so you know it's out there, and if other organizations that you're part of have means to contribute, at least you know about it.
Did you get your new camera?
And then there's a EDC just update, November update, for your information. I won't go over it, but it's a letter that they're putting out periodically. And then the last thing I've got in communications is a committee and organization membership for 2016. We kind of made a bunch of changes last year. This year, it's pretty much the same as we had last year. And I need I guess an approval or a head nod from you that you're okay with all these. If you want to change some of these, now's the time to bring it up and do it. Or you all want to be on the same committees as you have here, or do you want some changes this time?
What did you change since last year?
Nothing.
Nothing.
It's worked for me.
Yeah, it's good with me. Okay, good.
So we'll go ahead and put that out to organizations and let them know.
We got two of them. Send it, give out two sheets?
2 pages. Oh, we got 2 separate ones?
Yeah.
Well, you're twice as good.
You gotta go twice.
That's right, I gotta go twice.
Twice as informed.
Are they still keeping us as a board member of the EDC?
You are.
I am? Okay.
I think that was right?
Yeah, I didn't see it in there, I tried this one.
So we got Bill, right?
No,
It's me.
I think it's you.
I'm on the EDC. I actually got a meeting this Thursday, the last meeting of the year.
No, it's you. You're right.
Okay.
You're all set.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right, we have claim vouchers for December 7th, 2015 and December 14th, 2015.
Okay. December 7th, in the amount of $865,134.66.
It's a big increase, isn't it?
Yeah, there was actually the Department of Retirement one actually came through, and we just put it in with that at the last minute.
Okay.
And there's a payroll one there too. And then the December 14th, $604,247.54.
Well, I'll move that we approve claim vouchers for December 7, 2015 in the amended amount of $865,134.66.
Second.
Moved and seconded that claim vouchers for December 7th, 2015 be approved in the revised amount of $865,134.66. All those in favor? Aye.
And I move that we pay the claim vouchers for December 14th in the amount of $604,000, $247.54.
And I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded that claim vouchers for December 14th, 2015 be approved in the amount of $604,247.54. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
sort of nice. It was sort of cold last night. We had ice on our window this morning. That's because there was no clouds up there.
Dave likes ice. Okay, our next item is commissioner reports. You're all about Whitey.
Well, I took last week off, but before I left, we went over to the annual meeting for the PUD Association in CDAC area, they're all there. It's pretty darn good speakers. And I put most all of them on par with each other. They very, very informative. I like to call it entertained, but we have an employee from Energy Northwest who has spoken to the association before. Works for Energy Northwest. He's a nuclear advocate, and very, very dynamic speaker, and he can, just keeps on rattling away with all kinds of good information, and talking about climate change in layman's terms, I like to put it. It makes a lot of sense, and it was really, really informative. He had everybody pretty well spellbound. Steve Argent, not Steve Argent.
Jim Zorn.
Jim Zorn, the first quarterback for the Seahawks. As a speaker to begin with, we had Elliot Major from Cronin talk to us, and just a really, really good bunch of speakers for the conference. Well, pretty kind of a slam bang thing here now. Well, it just was a very informative session. I don't know if there's anything particular I wanted to talk about. Did a real good job. That's all I can say.
Well, actually, I went to that same meeting and pretty well covered it. And also I left my instruction booklet here, made it home. But also last week I went to NONET. The last meeting over in Seattle. Next year we have to go to
Spokane.
Well, Spokane. It's going to be tough having to go over there with the airfares and everything else. So we start in February over there. Interesting thing is, NONET actually was negotiating for sale in NONET about a couple months ago. And I asked them what they thought the company was worth, and they said probably half $500 million, about $500 million. So I was hoping they got something close to that, but I think they only offered about $150 million. But that's still not a bad deal. I mean, what do you think? Considering something that we actually were continually shoveling money into for a long time, to get $150 million for it? I mean, I thought it was pretty good.
I mean, it's, from an economic standpoint, it's an attractive offer. From a philosophical standpoint, I think a lot of people believe there's still work to be done with, respect to bringing broadband telecommunications to more rural areas and advanced services and that sort of thing. So,
And I asked the guys, Dave, how they reacted to it, and they said the problem is, if we sold them, the company, a lot of the people would leave, because I guess they're not really paid really true market value. And they actually had to increase, Greg had to actually increase the wages. He was at the meeting, so another 100,000, I guess, just to bring the minimum wage up to $15 an hour. So it's sort of good they didn't sell it, but it was sort of nice to know that we could have, we were owners, part owners in at least $150 million business.
Could you tell us what NOAANet is? What is it? NOAANet?
Oh, yeah, that's our
Northwest,
Northwest, what is that?
open access network.
Okay. It's the company that we started about 10, 12 years ago. It wasn't more than that. How long ago did we start that? 12 years
It's been
ago?
about 15 years.
15 years ago. And it does a lot of the electronic work for the PUDs. And they actually just got, you guys did a federal project a couple of years ago that put in a lot of fiber optics over across the state of Washington. It was about a $180 million federal project. And they got that done about a year ago. And they pretty well provided a lot of broadband, and at least fiber optics, to a lot of the cities all over, what do we call it, western or eastern Washington.
That was where most of those federal dollars went.
But it's a lot of high-powered, pretty knowledgeable Wi-Fi people that work there. I think they have about 50 or 60 employees.
Yep.
It's pretty high-tech. It's a pretty high-tech company.
And I think nationally, it's a pretty well-respected model and technology implementation for high-speed telecommunications, network design and so forth.
And it's got a fiber system that moves the state, so
Right.
that's quite an asset in itself.
Well, that's about all and then they went to the Christmas party for the PUD last Friday. And then we had the open house last Saturday. They had a lot of people come in on that. So I guess what's left?
You didn't leave me anything. Well, yeah, I went to the Wapuda conference as well, and this Dr. Conca, who's the person you talked about that does the global warming and advocate for nuclear. The part that kind of struck me was it showed a map of temperature-wise in the continental U.S. We're in pretty good shape up here. Our property is just going to soar in value. I mean, all those Californians are going to be bidding to come into this area, so with global warming, but anyway. It was a good conference, and I think Senator Erickson gave a very good talk. He kind of was a counterbalance to Conco, so it was good. And
What is it, counter? To who?
Well, Erickson is from, who's from Skagit, or,
Bellingham area.
yeah, Bellingham area, where they have all the refineries. He's very pro.
Well, that's for the oil.
Yeah, he's got a pro oil. So, what else did I do?
But you said contra to,
A counter to Conca. Conca
oh,
is just
contra.
an advocate of global warming and.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about.
Erickson said that the only electric car he wanted was a Tesla. So anyway, the following week I went to NOAANet as the Energy Northwest representative, so I can't tell you about that. We didn't pay for it. So then I went down to PPC and had that. I think you've all heard the story of I-5 being closed and a 12-hour trip back, and oh God, it was hefty. And went to the company party. It was a great event until the music started, and then I.
Yes.
It's designed for young people.
Yeah. We were leaving at the same time the band started on too.
And of course, the dedication, we had a great turnout, good crowd, all favorable comments we got from the public, so I think that went very well. We had a nice display of old Corvettes out of the parking lot. I enjoyed that, so. And after all of that, this week I got to go to Energy Northwest again this week, so tomorrow as a matter of fact. So if the Swan is open, if it's not, I'm going to turn it up. Anyway, I guess that's all I had. You guys covered most of it. Staff reports.
And nothing to report.
Well, if there's nothing else to come before the board, we'll stand adjourned.